The wedding invitation arrived 6 weeks before Daniel's big day. Heavy cardstock, gold embossing, the works. It must have cost $3 per invitation, minimum. I ran my finger over the raised lettering of my own name, Maya Chen, +1, and wondered if Mom had fought to include me at all. Maya. Probably not. I'd been the family disappointment for so long that I'd almost gotten comfortable with it. While Daniel climbed the corporate ladder at Dad's commercial real estate firm, I'd wasted my business degree on playing with computers. That's how Mom described my career in software development. Never mind that I'd been working remotely for a Silicon Valley startup for 3 years. Never mind anything I actually did. Maya does something with apps, Mom would tell her friends, waving her hand dismissively. We don't really understand it. Daniel's the one with the real career. The rehearsal dinner was Friday night at Bella Vista, an upscale Italian place downtown. I'd offered to help with costs months ago when Daniel first got engaged. We're good, he'd said quickly. Dad's handling everything. You know how he is about appearances. I knew exactly how he was. I arrived at Bella Vista at 6:45 p.m. for the 7 o'clock dinner. The parking lot had a valet station set up, and I pulled up behind Daniel's Tesla. Miss Chen? The valet coordinator, a woman in her 40s with severe red lipstick, checked her clipboard. First name? Maya. Her eyes scanned the list. I don't see you on the premium parking list. You'll need to use street parking. I blinked. Street parking? Family and important guests get valet service. Others can park on the street. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. There's usually spots about 3 blocks down. Behind me, a car honked. My face burned. Right, I said. 3 blocks. I found a spot 4 blocks away, actually, wedged between a dumpster and a pickup truck with a dented fender. The walk back in heels took 8 minutes. By the time I reached Bella Vista, the entire wedding party had already been seated inside. Through the windows, I could see them laughing, champagne glasses raised. Mom was at the head of the table in a royal blue dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Dad sat beside her, already red-faced from wine. Daniel and his fiancée, Brittany, held court in the middle, surrounded by her parents and her 3 bridesmaids. And there, at the far end of the table, barely visible, was an empty seat. Mine. I walked in. Nobody looked up. Maya. Mom's voice was bright and artificial. We were wondering if you'd make it. Traffic? Parking, I said simply. Well, you're here now. Sit. She gestured to the empty chair as if granting me permission to exist. I sat. The woman to my left, one of Brittany's aunts, was deep in conversation with the person on her other side. The chair to my right was empty. Apparently, I wasn't important enough to warrant a +1 seat at the actual table. Salads arrived. I ate mine quietly while Brittany's father gave a speech about how Daniel was exactly the kind of man every father hopes his daughter will find, successful, ambitious, from a good family. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd graduated summa cum laude with the same degree Daniel had barely passed with. But he'd gone to work for Dad, and I'd chosen my own path, so obviously his counted more. Entrees came. Filet mignon for the important guests. Chicken for the outer rim where I sat. This is incredible, Brittany gushed. Daniel, your parents are so generous. Mom beamed. Nothing's too good for our son's wedding. Daniel raised his glass. To Mom and Dad, for making all this possible. Everyone drank. I sipped my water. Dessert arrived with more champagne, and that's when Mom dropped it. We have an announcement, she said, standing. Her face was flushed with wine and excitement. We've decided to give Daniel and Brittany a very special wedding gift. Daniel looked surprised. Brittany's eyes went wide. We're paying for your honeymoon. Mom announced. 2 weeks in Bali, all expenses paid. First-class flights, 5-star resort, the works. The table erupted in applause. Brittany actually squealed. Mom, Dad, that's incredible, Daniel stammered. How much? Don't you worry about it, Dad cut in, his words slightly slurred. You're our son. You deserve it. I did the math quickly. First-class round trips for 2 to Bali, $12,000 minimum. 5-star resort for 2 weeks, probably another $8,000. Expenses, excursions, meals, easily $5,000 more. They were dropping at least $25,000 on a honeymoon. Last year, when ID asked for a $2,000 loan to replace my dying laptop, essential for my work, Dad had said, "You're 28 years old, Maya. Figure it out yourself." I had figured it out. I always did. That's very generous, I said quietly. Mom's eyes flicked to me, irritated that I'd spoken. Well, Daniel's given us so much to be proud of. It's the least we can do. The message was clear, you haven't given us anything. I excused myself to the bathroom. In the mirror, I looked tired. 3 years of proving myself, of building something real, and to them, I was still the disappointment who played with computers. My phone buzzed. A Slack message from my boss, Jeremy. Jeremy, hey, can you hop on a call tomorrow morning? The Series C investors want to talk to you specifically about the architecture you designed. Me, tomorrow's my brother's wedding. Can we do Monday? Jeremy, these guys are flying back to Singapore Sunday night. They're talking about making you VP of engineering if this closes. $340,000 base, plus equity. I stared at the message. Vice President of Engineering. $340,000 a year. More money than Dad made, probably. Certainly more than Daniel's salary at the family company. Me, what time? Jeremy, 10 a.m. Pacific. I'll send the Zoom link. I returned to the table. Dinner was winding down, and people were starting to say their goodbyes. Mom was hugging Brittany's mother, making plans for tomorrow's ceremony. Maya, Daniel called out as I gathered my purse. You're still coming tomorrow, right? Of course, I said. Good. Brittany's mom wants a full family photo. He paused. Just try to look happy, okay? I know you're not great at family stuff, but it's important to Brittany. Something cold settled in my chest. I'll do my best. Thanks, sis. He clapped me on the shoulder like I was a buddy he barely knew. I walked the 4 blocks back to my car alone. The street was dark, and my feet ached. Tomorrow would be worse, I knew it would, but I'd show up anyway. That's what you did for family. Even when they made you park 3 blocks away. Saturday morning, I was up at 6 a.m. for the investor call. 3 men in suits appeared on my screen from Singapore, the founder of a major tech conglomerate and his 2 investment partners. They grilled me for 90 minutes about the payment processing system I'd architected, the security protocols, the scalability model. Ms. Chen, the founder said finally, we've reviewed your work extensively. If this acquisition goes through, we want you heading the engineering team. Your current title? Senior developer, I said. We're talking VP of engineering. Full department control. You'd be reporting directly to the CTO. He named a figure that made my breath catch. Jeremy jumped in. Maya's been essential to everything we've built. She's irreplaceable. We can see that, the founder said. Ms. Chen, we'll have an answer on the acquisition by next Friday. Be ready. The call ended at 10:30 a.m. I had 2 hours to get ready for a 1 p.m. wedding ceremony. I chose a simple navy dress, nice but not attention-grabbing. That was the key with my family, exist, but don't outshine. I'd learned that lesson young. The ceremony was at Grand Oaks Estate, a venue that charged $15,000 just for the space rental. I arrived at 12:30 and immediately saw the same valet coordinator from last night. Street parking again? I asked before she could speak. Actually, you're on the list today. She checked her clipboard. But you'll need to park in Lot C. That's the overflow area for extended guests. Lot A is for immediate family. I was immediate family. I was the groom's sister. Where's Lot C? Follow the service road behind the building. About a 5-minute walk to the venue. Behind the building. With the catering trucks. Perfect, I said. I parked between a flower delivery van and a white sedan with an event staff placard. The walk to the main building took 7 minutes in heels, and by the time I arrived, pre-ceremony photos were already in progress. Maya. Mom's voice was sharp. Where have you been? We're doing family photos. Parking, I said again. The photographer arranged us, Mom and Dad in the center, Daniel and Brittany beside them, Brittany's parents on the other side. I was positioned at the far edge, half out of frame. Could Maya move in a bit? The photographer asked. She's fine there, Mom said quickly. Let's get the shot. Click. Documentation of a family I barely belonged to. The ceremony was beautiful. Daniel cried during his vows. Brittany looked stunning. I sat in the 4th row, surrounded by people I didn't know, and felt nothing but a strange, distant numbness. Then came the reception. Grand Oaks had transformed their ballroom into something from a magazine spread. Crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere, a string quartet playing softly. The bar was open, the champagne flowing. I found my name card at a table near the kitchen doors. Table 12, with Brittany's college roommate's boyfriend, a couple of distant cousins I'd met once, and 2 empty seats. Table 1, the head table, had Mom, Dad, Daniel, Brittany, and both sets of parents. Tables 2 through 5 were wedding party and close family friends. I was at table 12. With strangers and empty chairs. Maya Chen? I turned. A tall man in an expensive suit stood there, hand extended. Robert Morrison. I'm the venue's event coordinator. There was a small issue with the parking assignment earlier. I wanted to apologize personally. It's fine, I said. No, it's not. His voice was firm. You're listed as immediate family, but somehow you were assigned to overflow parking. That shouldn't have happened. I've spoken with my staff. Mom materialized beside us. Is there a problem? No problem at all, Mrs. Chen. I was just apologizing to your daughter for the parking confusion. Mom's smile was plastic. Oh, Maya doesn't mind. She's very understanding. Still, as the groom's sister, she should have been in premium parking from the start. Robert's eyes were sharp. We pride ourselves on proper protocol. Mom's face tightened. Well, thank you for sorting it out. Robert nodded and walked away. Mom turned to me, her voice low. Did you complain to the staff? No. Then why is he? She stopped, shook her head. Never mind. Just, try not to cause any drama today, please. She walked away before I could respond. Dinner service began. The first course was a delicate crab bisque. At the head table, servers brought out premium lobster tails, filet mignon, truffle risotto. At my table, we got chicken breast with vegetables. I ate quietly while the speeches began. Dad gave a rambling toast about legacy and family business. Brittany's father talked about trust and partnership. Daniel stood up, slightly drunk, and thanked everyone for coming. Special thanks to Mom and Dad for making all this possible, he said, raising his glass. This day wouldn't exist without them. They've given us everything. Everyone drank. I raised my water glass. Then the best man spoke. Then the maid of honor. Then a parade of friends telling stories about Daniel and Brittany's perfect romance. Nobody mentioned me. Not once. I checked my phone. A text from Jeremy, investors officially submitted acquisition offer. Board meeting Monday. This is happening. Another text, this time from my landlord, inspection next week found some issues. Might need you to temporarily relocate for renovations. We'll keep you posted. I stared at that second message. My landlord was Josh Winters, a college friend who'd bought a 4-unit building as an investment property. He'd given me a good rate because we went way back. An idea formed. A terrible, petty idea. I pushed it away. That wasn't who I was. Dessert arrived, wedding cake and champagne. The DJ started playing music, and people moved to the dance floor. I stayed at table 12, watching my family celebrate without me. At 8:47 p.m., everything changed. Robert Morrison appeared at the head table, his face grave. He leaned down to speak with Dad, who was on his third whiskey. Dad's expression shifted from jovial to confused to alarmed. Mom noticed and leaned in. Robert spoke to both of them, his voice too low to hear. Dad stood up, unsteady. There must be some mistake. I'm afraid not, sir, Robert said, louder now. We've tried all 5 cards on file. All declined. The nearby tables went quiet. That's impossible, Mom said, but her voice wavered. Try them again. We've tried each one 3 times. Your total balance is $18,500, due immediately. We cannot continue service without payment. $18,500. The reception costs they'd clearly put on credit, assuming they could pay it off later. Daniel stood up. Dad, what's going on? Nothing, Dad snapped. Just a banking error. I'll sort it out. But he pulled out his phone with shaking hands, and I watched him try to call the bank. At 8:48 p.m. on a Saturday. Nobody answered. Brittany's father approached. Is there a problem? No problem, Mom said quickly, but her face had gone pale. Just a misunderstanding about payment timing. Robert's voice was professional but firm. Mr. and Mrs. Chen, I need to be clear. We cannot serve the remainder of the evening, including the bar, the DJ, and the late-night snack service, without payment. We've also been instructed by our catering partner that their $6,300 invoice is also due and their cards were also declined. The number grew. $18,500 plus $6,300. Nearly $25,000 in declined charges. The DJ had stopped playing. The bar had closed. Servers stood frozen, unsure what to do. Everyone was watching now. This is ridiculous, Dad said. I have money. This is obviously an error. I understand, sir. But until we receive payment, I cannot authorize continued service. We'll need to ask your guests to. Don't, Mom cut in. Don't you dare. But it was too late. Everyone had heard. Everyone knew. Daniel's face was red. Dad, what the hell? You said you had this covered. I do have it covered. Dad's voice rose. This is a banking error. Brittany started crying. Her mother put an arm around her while shooting daggers at my parents. I sat at table 12, perfectly still. Dad tried his credit cards again himself. One by one, at the payment terminal Robert had brought over. Each one, declined. 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 Mom was on her phone, frantically texting someone. Daniel paced, running his hands through his hair. Brittany's father stepped forward. How much do you need right now to continue the reception? Robert checked his tablet. $18,500 for the venue. The caterer wants their $6,300 as well, but they might work with you on a payment plan. I can cover the caterer, Brittany's father said tightly. But not both. He pulled out his card. It went through. The catering staff visibly relaxed. But the venue was still owed $18,500, and Dad couldn't pay it. We need to make some calls, Mom said. Give us 20 minutes. Robert nodded. 20 minutes. But if we can't resolve this, I'll need to end the event. I watched my parents scramble. Dad called his brother, no answer. Mom called her sister, sent a voicemail. Daniel tried his best friend, who picked up but couldn't help with that amount on a Saturday night. 15 minutes passed. At table 12, one of the distant cousins leaned over. Isn't this awful? I can't believe they're having money problems. I said nothing. 18 minutes. Dad approached Brittany's father. Could you possibly, no? Brittany's father's voice was ice. I just covered $6,300 that you promised you'd pay. I'm not giving you another $20,000. It's a loan. I'll pay you back Monday. You clearly can't manage your finances. The answer is no. 20 minutes. Robert Morrison returned. Mr. and Mrs. Chen? Dad's face was gray. We're still working on it. I'm sorry, but I need payment now, or I have to shut down the event. Those are our terms. Mom's voice cracked. This is our son's wedding. You can't just, I can, and I must. Our policy is clear. The room was dead silent. 200 guests watching my parents fall apart. Daniel turned to his groomsmen. Anyone? Please? They all shook their heads. Not that kind of money, not that fast. Brittany was sobbing now. Her dream wedding, ending in humiliation because my parents had overextended themselves trying to look wealthy. I stood up. Every eye turned to me. I walked slowly from table 12 to the head table. My heels clicked on the hardwood floor. Nobody spoke. How much? I asked Robert. $18,500. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. I'll transfer it directly to the venue's account. What's your routing number? Robert blinked. Miss, that's a very generous offer, but I'm not offering. I'm paying. Give me the account information. Mom grabbed my arm. Maya, you don't have that kind of money. I looked at her. Really looked at her. You have no idea what I have. You're a developer. You make, what, $60,000 a year? Maybe $70,000? You can't, Mom. My voice was quiet. Come. Give me the account number, Robert. He did. I transferred $18,500 in 4 taps. My account barely registered the loss. Robert's phone pinged. He checked it, and his eyebrows rose. Payment received. Full amount. Thank you, Miss Chen. The room erupted in whispers. Dad stared at me. Where did you get? The DJ can start playing again, I said to Robert. The bar can reopen. Let's finish this reception. Of course, Miss Chen. Robert actually smiled at me. And thank you. Truly. He walked away to restart everything. The DJ started music. The bar reopened. Slowly, carefully, the reception resumed. But the damage was done. Daniel approached me. Maya, I don't understand. How did you? I work in tech, I said simply. I make good money. How good? I smiled. Good enough. Mom was crying now, but not tears of gratitude. Tears of humiliation. Because I'd just exposed the lies she'd been living, that Daniel was the successful one, that I was the disappointment, that their family was wealthy and powerful. I'd just paid more in 10 seconds than Daniel probably had in his savings account. We'll pay you back, Dad said, but his voice was hollow. No, you won't. Maya. This is my wedding gift to Daniel, I said clearly, loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. Consider us even. For everything. I didn't elaborate. I didn't need to. Every parking slight. Every dismissal. Every time I'd been treated like I didn't matter. Paid in full. I turned to leave. Wait, Daniel called. Where are you going? Home. I have work tomorrow. But the reception is saved. You're welcome. I looked at Brittany, whose makeup was streaked with tears. Congratulations on your marriage. I hope you're very happy. I walked out of Grand Oaks Estate at 9:23 p.m. I got in my car, parked behind the building with the catering trucks, and drove away. My phone started buzzing before I hit the highway. Mom. Dad. Daniel. I silenced it. At home, I poured a glass of wine and sat on my couch. My phone showed 23 missed calls and 31 text messages. I read one from Daniel, how much do you actually make? One from Mom, we need to talk about this. Call me immediately. One from Dad, this doesn't change anything. You still owe this family respect. I deleted them all and opened my email instead. Jeremy had sent a message, investors are at 90% yes. Start thinking about your new title, VP Chen. I smiled and closed my laptop. Monday morning, I'd take a call that would change my life. I'd become vice president of engineering at a company being acquired for $340 million. I'd make more than my father and brother combined. But Saturday night, I'd already proven everything I needed to prove. Not to them. To myself. I'd shown up, parked where they told me to park, sat where they told me to sit, and stayed quiet while they celebrated everything I wasn't. And then I'd saved them. Not because they deserved it. But because I could. That was the difference between us. They needed to prove their worth by putting others down. I proved mine by lifting others up, even when they'd spent years trying to bury me. My phone buzzed again. Another call from Mom. I turned it off and went to bed. The wedding had ended. The reception was saved. The truth was out. And I was finally, completely done trying to earn love from people who'd never valued me in the first place. 3 blocks away felt like exactly the right distance now.